Welcome everyone to the Home Service Summit webinar series. I am so happy and excited to have Susan here from Car My Yard to talk to us about her experience at Car My Yard, in which we were talking backstage and getting to know each other a little bit. And it was really fun to hear about her business and what she's been doing with the business and some of her pastimes. Great conversations. If you haven't been to one of these in the past, I'm just going to go through the program and how we do these live webinars. It'll be about an hour in total length, and there's a chat you'll notice on the far right side. You can go ahead and click on that, and inside that chat, you are free to comment at any point in time or ask any questions or say hello. And I'll make sure that I come and I'll be watching that and pulling from those questions throughout our conversation. So if there's something I'm missing or something you'd like to know about Susan and her business or what 5-Star about Home Service Summit, we want to make sure that we can answer those for you. And the first 45 minutes will be just me going through Susan's story and learning from her and what she has done in her business. And then we'll open up to the live audience for questions. So with that, Susan owns a couple of territories, one in Flower Mound and one in Coppell, Texas. And both of them are thriving Car My Yard businesses. And she has done a great job of growing them to where they are today. And to kick us off, Susan, if you don't mind, just tell us your backstory. How did you find Car My Yard? And by the way, I love that you're ripping the brand. I love the pink. You are. It is definitely. I will say one of the things, and I'm just gonna maybe just promote Car My Yard here for a moment. One of the things that 5-Star absolutely loved about the brand when we were looking at partnering with Josh and his team is the satisfaction levels of the consumers that use Car My Yard is outrageously high. I mean, it's higher than almost any brand in North America in terms of Net Promoter Score. People absolutely love to have their yard carded and celebrate something, whether it's a birth in the family or graduating or something. And franchisees of Car My Yard get to be a part of celebrating that moment and making that special with so many of these families. And so with that, it doesn't surprise me that they attract people like Susan, who you can tell is very friendly, very engaging, and loves doing what she does. And so that's great to be part of the 5-Star family, to have franchisees that are so excited about what they do and living the brand. So I want to commend you on that, Susan. So yeah, please tell us your story. How'd you learn about Car My Yard? What got you in the business, and your backstory?
Certainly, Scott. First of all, thank you so much for having me on this. I certainly love the opportunity to share about what I do. And it's an honor, honestly, that Josh and Amy trusted me to represent Car My Yard. As far as my backstory is concerned, I was in education for 15 years. And in the school where I taught, one of the original owners, Kristen Short, was actually the first franchise owner in our area. And so she would card the schoolyard. And of course, then I saw that. And then I've got kids with birthdays and graduations and homecomings and everything. And so I became a customer of Car My Yard. And then I was able to experience the value that was brought to the occasion, the energy, the photo op spot, all of that. It was amazing. Then fast forward a few years, my sister-in-law, who owns Car My Yard Windermere, learned about it. I told her, she's a realtor. I'm like, oh, have you ever thought about welcoming your clients home with a sign that says, welcome home? She's like, oh my gosh, what is that? So she purchased Car My Yard Windermere and has been running it successfully. So I was able to witness her in her journey through ownership and through the customers' interactions. And then when I learned that Car My Yard Coppell, my own backyard, was available, I was at a point in my life where I want to do things that have meaning. I want to bring value to people's lives. I want to do things that feed my soul, which is kind of a selfish thing to say, but it's true. I want to do things that are fulfilling for me. And I'm not going to be an accountant behind the desk. That's just not who I am. So I truly jumped at the opportunity, and I would have never gone up and said, hey, I think I want to own this sign rental company. But what I do say to myself is I am always looking for opportunity. And I try to say yes as often as I can, and as many ways as I can. So I am so honored to have Car My Yard Coppell. In regard to my partnership with Tammy Rosas with Car My Yard Flower Mound, she owned Car My Yard Hello Village. So we'd had, many interactions about the business and things like that. And we actually made a joke one time. We were like, ha, 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 if Flower Mound goes up for sale, we should buy it. And no kidding, like 6 months later, it went up for sale. I'm like, oh my God, she's going to call me. And she did. She's like, hey, we said we were going to do this.
Uh-huh.
And let me tell you something. That was the smartest thing I could have ever done. She's not only an amazing partner, and we share such a great vision for what we do, why we do it, and how to grow it. It's been an amazing ride.
Yeah, oh, I love hearing that. If you don't mind, I'm just come back to a few things you mentioned because I think there's some keys to unlock success here for you.
Certainly.
But just for everyone's benefit, if you don't mind, would you just share, like, I know you bought established businesses, but if you were to buy a brand new Carve My Yard today, you want to get your own location, what does it cost to get into the business and make that investment?
Certainly. So a brand new location that's never been working for or owned before, I believe the starting price is $8,000.
Yeah.
So it's one of the lowest cost entry level franchises you probably could ever buy into.
Yeah.
That said, every franchise owns zip codes. So the lovely thing about that is when somebody enters their address in to place the order, as soon as they enter that zip code, it automatically behind the scenes kind of ties into my website. They'll see my graphics, they'll see my face, and feel an immediate connection with their order. So, I mean, for an entry level price of $8,000, you kind of can't beat it. And that will come with your starting inventory and so much educational opportunities and support. It's unbelievable.
And if you don't mind, let's also go through the model, right? Because I know that Carve My Yard handles all the ordering for you. It's all done on their website. The consumer goes on, hits their zip code in, orders a carting, I guess, of their yard, and then it gets to you to fulfill the order. And the system withdraws the costs associated with all your royalties and so forth. What is that amount that's withheld, and what goes to you for every card yarding?
Certainly. So corporate handles the taxes, the sales tax, and they take 28%.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So the remaining goes to you, and effectively, you're renting because all these signs are reusable, right? And in many cases, I guess there are some vanity signs that are customized to a specific need. But you're renting signs, like they go on the lawn for 1 or 2 days. Is that normal, 1 or 2, or does it go longer than that?
Listen, every sign is different. The average rental is a 24-hour rental, like for a birthday. But I literally just had a sign up at Chick-fil-A for 7 days. So yeah,
okay, which is awesome.
Yeah. And we can place those limits in our system. We can say, that like during graduation, we can limit how long a sign can stay in the yard. We have full control on our dashboard as to how many orders we can accept, how long the orders can stay there. We also even allow what's called extensions. So a customer can go back into their order confirmation email and they can click like view manage order and they can extend their order. So we get lots of freedom with regard to that.
And what that's going to be beautiful, right? Because once a yard carting has happened, the cost associated with that yard carting is sunk. Like you've already spent it. Your labor to install the signs are done. The lawn signs themselves, you've already paid for. They're in your inventory. There's no cost associated with that at all. And so when someone wants to extend a day or two, it's like 100% margin for you.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that is, I think there's a strategy there really to try and upsell someone from a 1 to 2 day because the margin you're making is so much. It's like that whole famous thing that McDonald's did with you want fries with that on after every order, right? They always want to sell their fries because the margin was so high.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned when you were speaking earlier that you met, is it Kristen that you bought Coppell from?
So no, I actually bought it from a girl named Leah. She actually owned the greater Guanajuato area that at the time included Coppell. And she separated it off so that I just purchased Coppell, and she was still at the time running Flower Mound. Got
it. And you kind of learned about it through your time at a school. My understanding is that happens a lot. That one of the strategies that Carve My Yard has is you go and you'll celebrate teachers or like teacher appreciation or other celebrations at a school for free, or how do you do that? Because I'm assuming you get so much attention from all the parents driving by to pick up their kids at their elementary school. They're all seeing that yard sign. Maybe just talk to me a little bit more about that. Like, how do you leverage that to help grow your business? Certainly.
So it is obvious that, getting in front of a school and having your sign up there for any amount of time, it is marketing out the wazoo because that's who we cater to is family and kids. That said, we also help adults. I've literally done signs for not only births, but also in memory of. I've done signs for 100th birthday, 101, 102. So that's what's really pretty awesome about our business is that truly, while we have a niche market, we can serve anyone, anywhere. So that's pretty amazing. With regard to schools, the way that we've handled the way I personally handled my franchise and the way Tammy and I work together is we believe it's important to not only bring value to what we do, which means not always doing it for free, but being willing to sometimes do things, in a promotional way.
Yeah.
But we want to make it super easy for people to be able to order. So we have a flat 30% discount for all schools in our area. There is one discount code that they use. So every time they order, no matter how many days they need it, no matter what their occasion is, they always get 30% off at that code. And that is the way we even approach it, is that, listen, we know you guys are super busy. It is not, and we watch in your shoes. We want to make it easy for you to order anytime. No rules, no fine credits, no limits. You enjoy this. This is our gift to you. This is the way that we serve you.
That's a great idea. So do you go to all the schools in your zip code area that you own, and you let them all know? Like, who's the person you talk to? Is it the principal, the vice principal? Is it one of the teachers? How do you kind of, if you will, get into that market?
Certainly. It varies. There are sometimes where it's the PTA or the PTO that they are the ones that do all the ordering. Sometimes it's really kind of getting to know the school office. So, we've done things like stock the lounge and been able to go in there kind of in a more genuine service way to let them know about what we do. But it doesn't take long for us to do one or two signs and for us to make that connection and to honestly show them that they can trust us to serve them well, that they understand the value. So there are certainly schools that I've serviced from day one, and I guarantee you I'm the only sign company that they ever use. There are other schools that I'm working to get into, and sometimes it has to do with income and money available. And so we try to find ways to listen. Don't let money be what limits you on being able to promote your events. So we'll go in and we'll sponsor a trunk or treat, things like that for in front of the school and in front of the families.
That's great. I mean, you're thinking about anything that we celebrate in our community, and like you said, trunk or treats or Halloween. You've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, you've got Easter, all the big holidays, President's Day, Teacher Appreciation Day, Executive Assistant Day. There's all these days that we want to celebrate somebody. Knowing that's the case, hitting those communities, and clearly schools is one way. I'm sure universities also could work, or any kind of educational environment. Because they're trying to promote something, obviously. Do you find that you also do some work with like businesses or commercial businesses?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I've actually partnered with this is an Old Town Coppell, and they always want a sign out opportunity. So yes, absolutely. I've done work for Nokia. I've done work for Smoothie King. I've got work to help ADT celebrate 100 years. So yes, absolutely. That's the great thing. We can service anybody.
Well, I love what you're saying there, because like you think of any strip mall, every single store that's in that strip mall wants to promote something. They've got a flavor of the month. They've got an offer of the month. They've got something they want to say or promote in a unique way. And the Card My Yard product is a unique product that stands out. Like you see it, it's very obvious. And so I think what you're sharing here is really valuable for anyone that's in this business already. And so I think it's a reminder for anyone who owns any business, there are customers everywhere that need our service. It's a matter of maybe being a little more bold and being willing to step in or out of your comfort zone and walk up to those businesses and offer your service in a way that, because in this business, every time you earn an ADT, as you mentioned, or a Smoothie King, you literally are now in front of hundreds of customers who are seeing that sign promoted in a unique way, and it's Card My Yard, which is, I love that. Would you mind, Susan, could you just, stepping back for a second, you have 2 territories. Could you just give us a reference of like how big both those territories are in terms of annual revenue?
Certainly. So my Coppell location, and we spoke earlier about this, my Coppell location, it's a baby, and I've literally had to grow it from the ground up. We're at $24,000 in sales last year. But knowing that, I have grown that 160% since I bought it. So I'm really proud of that. Coppell was about me teaching the community about who I am, what our product is, and how I will serve them. So it's been about truly, organically, and genuinely serving on a regular basis And I could not be more proud of what I've done with that little baby and the fact that it's crawling now. And it's nice now. I literally have customers texting me, hey, what's this year's school code? So it's pretty amazing. I remember actually having a conversation with myself because I had an order like in about a week. And I thought, man, is Coppell telling me that no, thank you? And I'm like, wait a minute. No one's saying no, thank you. What they're saying is, Susan, I don't know you. I don't really know what the Cart My Yard is. I don't know how you could serve me or bring value to me. And so I really kind of use that as motivation, is that I want to show them who I am consistently and with the highest level of quality. And more than anything, I'm going to delight them. So they're going to come in with this expectation of, oh, I'm going to get this cute sign. And then all of a sudden it's going to have their school logo in there, or it's going to have graphics in there they never expected were going to be perfect for their occasion. So when you delight them, they will not only remember you and reuse you, they will also tell the story about who you are and what you do. So that perpetuates it. Then with regard to Flower Mound, it was a very well-established area. It is also still truly growing. So we see a lot of potential with Flower Mound. I mean, as far as the housing, things like that are going in, it's quite a community. We're at $47,000 in sales, and we have grown that 18% since we owned it. And we've actually got some partnerships coming out that we truly see is going to help us go to the next level with that.
Oh, I love it. Congratulations. That's great.
Thanks.
Now, for some of the people who may be on this call right now, if you're with Cart My Yard, you probably are listening to this and thinking, wow, $80,000, $90,000 a year is an amazing Cart My Yard business. And you might have some franchisees here from other concepts that, they're thinking, how does that work at 90,000? How do you make the business work? So if you wouldn't mind, Susan, could you just walk us through, if you're grossing roughly $90,000 a year in the business, what percentage of that revenue actually flows through to you and your partners as owners?
Certainly. So 40% is what our net revenue is, or our profit margin, after we've already paid for less royalties and less the sales tax.
Got it. Yeah. So it's
this is
very
not
high.
A get rich quick scheme. This is not.
It's a very high margin business.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I approach this in the fact that I am doing something that crosses over from hobby to I'm in a person studying ministry, but it's a way for me to spread some joy.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a business. So it's all those things for me personally. And I think it's actually that way for a lot of our owners, is they understand that the value that we bring exceeds the monetary value.
Yeah. You take great joy and pride in 100%. What you are doing, which is everyone should take pride and ownership in their trade. And I would love to, talk about some context. So if you're doing a business that's $90,000 a year, how many orders a day does that amount to on average?
So our goal is our big kind of tagline goal is 1 order a day. And that's always what you strive for. And we certainly have a dashboard where we can kind of monitor how we're doing with regard to that. And we celebrate certainly people that each quarter that they do reach that 1 order per day. COVID certainly exponentially increased everyone's orders per day. And honestly, while we found like a little decline after COVID, the truth is the value is still there. And so it's pretty remarkable to see that even after COVID left, or after COVID was over, just the repeat customers we have. And when I look at that, truly, it's like once we get a customer, that is our greatest customer, because they come time after time after time. We still get customers, from Google searches and Facebook and social media and referrals. But once we get a customer, we keep them. So we try to bring value at the highest level every single time, so we can keep those customers.
Well, and that's, for anyone listening, 1 order per day, how much time does it take you to do that 1 order a day for
Certainly.
you or your installers?
Certainly. Ideally, I think we can get a sign in the yard in about 30 minutes.
Right.
Now, it has taken up to an hour in some situations, but 30 minutes is pretty ideal.
So, for a business that's grossing roughly 90,000 and netting about 40% of that, you're only spending a half an hour to an hour a day installing. And the rest of your time, you can do promotions. Like you mentioned, there's ways to get more customers, getting out of your comfort zone. Kristen, thank you for the shout out. She said, you have to take that leap and get out of your comfort zone. And that's how you can grow. And so with that, I want to maybe just step back for a second. You mentioned how you look at this business and a little bit like a ministry. And so if you don't mind, what do you absolutely love about your business? The things that you like, the top of on top of mind. This is the thing I love the most about Carve My Yard.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, there's so many things. I can't say enough about what happens to me physically when I even walk in to start to design a sign. And when I learn about the stories of the people that I'm designing this sign for and realize that they're trusting me to help with their celebration, whatever that is, truthfully, I will never forget. I've helped a customer a couple of times with celebrating her kids' birthdays. But a time came that after her father had passed, his birthday was coming. And the family was coming in town to memorialize him. And she asked me, can you help me? And so the responsibility that I felt in that moment to honor him was overwhelming. And so we did a beautiful sign that said, in memory, Papa. And she laughed and told me the story that he's a gardener, but he's kind of the gardener that's just like, hey, let's throw the seeds in and see what grows. And he's just, about half the time. Half the time things die, but he's still laughing about it and enjoying it. So in that setup, while I made it masculine, I still threw in some flowers and some butterflies. And she called me. She said, we all cried tears of joy because of your sign.
That's so
What an
special.
honor. I mean, how do you put a price on that? How do you put a price on that? That value carries over, tremendously.
Yeah. I know that in our business, there are a number of franchisees who in other brands, like we are involved in important moments of people's lives.
Yes.
And it can be in improving the quality of life. It also can mean dealing with some tragic circumstances. There's all kinds of elements for a business. Yes. But what I do love is hearing an owner talking about how important how serious they take their business and how important it is to them and how it brings them joy. And so thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful. If you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about some of the hard things of Carve My Yard. There's got to be some downsides. So far, it's all been positive. It's been amazing. It's all, rainbows and unicorns. But I'm sure there's some parts of the business that are challenging. If you don't mind, what are some of the challenges of Carve My Yard?
Absolutely. So when I first bought my franchise, when I realized just some of the visible labor behind effects, you're like, what was I getting myself into? I say this all the time, that this is not a glamorous job. I'm all fluffed up today, but typically it's a ball cap and, I've got tools ready to go. We have to overcome hard ground. We have to overcome heat. So that can be very difficult. And a lot of times I do most of the work myself. I always say that I'm a teeny tiny business. It's me, myself, and I.
So you actually install the signs yourself. You'll actually go out and put them in.
100%.
Oh, 100%. That's awesome.
But I love the challenge of that too, because here's the thing. If we lose our joy when things become hard, what's going to happen? Things are always going to be hard. We're going to be miserable. And so learning how to just overcome that and find hacks to get through it. I say to my husband, because he'll help me with signs sometimes. I tell him all the time, we have to keep ourselves in a place of joy, no matter the circumstance, because otherwise we cannot spread the joy. I truly believe in that butterfly effect of everything that we do and the way that we do it with the attitude and what we're thinking in the moment. If I'm going to start in a yard and it's going to be difficult and I'm hot and I'm already in my mind dreading this, what am I spreading? So I've certainly learned to overcome those obstacles, changing the stake out, what I can do to the ground, setting up times to set up the sign that's more conducive to cooler weather or whatever.
Yeah.
And I find that customers are so understanding when you say, listen, in order to overcome or, to help me to make sure your sign is perfect, I need you to water your ground thoroughly. Or in order for you to set this up and just keep everybody safe, we're going to wait till the storm is over. Man, let me tell you something. When people understand that you're wanting to do your very best job, you're wanting to stay safe, and you want to be perfect, they're so flexible with you.
Yeah.
So can it be hard? Yes. Is it a lot of labor? Absolutely. But the joy far outweighs those moments of sweat, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's an analogy there in what you just shared, or a metaphor, I guess is probably the way of saying it. We know we take the most joy of things that are challenging. Like if there's a challenging circumstance, that's where you can find the most joy. If it comes easy, it's just not as valuable. And so I think we all know business is not easy, right?
No.
Sometimes we put the game face on when we see the public, and it's always beautiful and wonderful, but we do know that there's challenges to every business. So I appreciate you sharing that. Let's come back to your story a little bit about how you grew the business in Coppell. You mentioned you grew it about 3 times since you purchased it. So about a 300% increase in revenue, which is something you got to be proud of. That's not easy to do. To kind of talk me through, what are the things you did to grow the business specifically? And if you don't mind, like, get tactical. Like, Scott, I went and spoke to this person, or I did the following, or I did this promotion, or I did some online advertising. I'm not sure what all the tools you used were, but just share them with us so we can learn from you.
Certainly. So getting into Coppell, starting off, it's always about getting to the schools. So having that discount ready and then contacting them and bringing value to them with regard to that's primary. That's our target audience. But I also am proud to say that I approached the city of Coppell to do signs for them for 4th of July. They do a phenomenal 4th of July event called Celebrate Coppell. So I've done 5 signs for them every year. And they'll basically say, Susan, we're ready for our signs. They place the order. They trust me with whatever I'm going to put. They know that every year I'm going to make it different and better and bigger and all the things. And thousands of people attend that every year. And I know that once the city trusted me with signs, I knew that was a sales pitch in and of itself, because we put our logo with every sign that we do. So that was huge. And then I've certainly done promotional signs. I've done things for the farmers market. That actually did not work. I mean, the ground was too difficult for me. They weren't really willing to really partner up with me and help promote me. So do I still go to the farmers market? Yes. Is that the perfect place for a sign? No. And that was part of what I had to learn, was what places make the most sense and where is that true partnership where there's this equal value there. We have a little gift shop in Old Town Coppell, and they were celebrating their birthday. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to help you. Can I put a sign up for you? She's like, oh, absolutely. So I did a sign for her. Well, so then when I'm doing this sign for her, the restaurant across the street said, wait a minute, we didn't know you could do things like this. We thought we just did like birthday signs. I'm like, oh no, I can do anything. And so now we've got this lovely partnership, and we do these photo ops for Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduations, because they want to be involved with the community as much as I do. They want to show they care about the community as much as I do. So that's been amazing.
So it sounds like a lot of promotion or customer acquisition comes from just winning a customer, whether it's for free or a promotion, and then someone else seeing what you're doing and what the possibilities are. If you don't mind, how do you keep track of things? I know all the orders come through the website, and people have to go there. Does it track, how that person if they found you from online or from a referral, and so do you know how your customers are all arriving?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have like a master dashboard that shows us, how did they find us? And I will tell you that, gosh, and I don't have an exact percentage, but I'm going to say well over 70% of our customers are returning customers. So, we bring value to them, that they will come back. So our effort is always to delight them, to exceed expectations. I always say under-promise and over-deliver. And that is always the case. We also, of course, utilize social media. We are very active. And not only try to put out those promotions on social media, but we also try to do fun things like, here's behind the scenes, oh my gosh, look at this fire that's on my side. Do you think it's poisonous? So kind of being a genuine person and it not always being the sales pitch is super, super important. We also always are asking for reviews. There's something to be said for people taking the time to tell others about their experience. And we can draw on what they say and help us to learn and remind ourselves about how we continue to serve them. So when they bring up words like, my sign was so classy for the occasion, or my sign really, brought this energy because it was so colorful. So when we get that kind of feedback, now we know even better how to serve. And that was kind of the terminology that I learned about the Coppell areas. They are looking for a classy sign. They are looking for something that if they're going to pay good money, it needs to look professional. It needs to be straight and well thought out in design and in shape. So I take great pride in looking at how that's going to look.
I hope that if any of our franchisees of the other brands outside of Carmen Yard are listening today, I hope one of the takeaways you all receive from this is a light bulb goes off and you think, I could use a Carmen Yard in my territory right now to do some classy, outstanding promotions of your business. If you're Mosquito Shield, if you're Bass Solutions, or if you're Pack Outs, you have an opportunity to leverage Carmen Yard to promote your business in your markets and in a way that is unique, that people don't see that often. It stands out, and they'll remember you because of that. You mentioned that 70% of your customers are returning customers, roughly. You don't know the exact number, but it's about that. And a lot of them comes from social media. So those are two ways that you've grown the business. If you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned earlier, roughly 40% of your margins are profit. You have a 40% profit margin.
Correct.
Talk me through the costs of the business. I know you get your royalty and your sales tax. What's in between net profit and that gross revenue?
Absolutely.
What are costs?
Our greatest cost is automobile. And because we're having to drive to every location. So we work very hard to create a route that makes sense. And so that's really our greatest cost. On top of that, obviously, the inventory that we purchase. So Card My Yard actually prints our graphics and our letters and everything, which creates consistency across the brand. We have what's called a boutique where we can kind of shop. Also, what's phenomenal is that, we spoke about it earlier, I can actually get a high quality logo from a business or from a school or whatever, and I can include that in a setup, which brings more value. So for instance, a local diner at Coppell, they want those photo op spots. So I said, send me your logo, and I will at my cost print that logo. I'll own it, but I'll put it in every single one of your setups. So it brings a lot of value that way. Yeah, absolutely.
So remember, right? Once you've invested, you have someone's custom logo made for them. You own it, and your cost is sunk. Now, every time they rent that sign, you're making money on that sign every single time.
Correct.
And the more they are doing 2, 3, 4, 7-day promotions versus a 1-day rental, your margins go up considerably, which is fantastic. I love that. Who takes care of your books for your business? Is this something you do yourself, or do you have a bookkeeper that helps you?
Oh, no. You have to know what your talents and gifts are. That's not mine. So my husband actually, he has a background in finance and IT and insurance, and that's his wheelhouse. Like, he gets all giddy about the spreadsheets and the colors. And I'm just like, you want to talk budget and you want to talk about where we're standing, like, grab me a glass of wine and then we'll talk. So it's just, I think the numbers are important. I need to know them and be on top of them. And so between my business partner and I, between my husband and I, that's absolutely something that has to be discussed. And we have to know where we are and where we're going and how to get there. But I have to focus on, how do I build trust with those customers? How do I design things that are elegant and classy? So I know my wheelhouse, and I stay in it, and I work really hard at it.
There's a lot of wisdom here in what you just said, Susan. Probably more than you maybe even realize. I don't know how much you may realize this, but like, one of the more common things I've seen happen is sometimes owners they'll play to their weakness. You just said it, right? You're really good with people. You're very charming.
Yeah.
They like you, and you're able to network and make connections and grow the business. You're the rainmaker. Yeah. Okay. That's what you're doing. You're making rain in the business. Your husband, though, he's very good at numbers.
Yeah.
You're playing to his strength. You're playing to your strength, but you're not ignoring that this thing has to be taken care of. You have to know your numbers. If you don't know them, you can't manage the business effectively.
Exactly.
Right. You don't want to be in a situation where you're staring at a bank account balance as the means of knowing if you're being successful. You want to be knowing that you grew 3 times, 300% over 3 years. You want to know you grew 18% year over year in your other business. These are things you need to know. You need to know your margins, what your net margin, where your cost of goods sold, where are they going. And when you have that, I know you set yourself up for success. You know where you need to go to be successful in your business. So with that, I want to ask you, as you think about your Card My Yard, your 2 locations, how big does this get for you? What's your vision for your business? Where will you be in 5 years?
Absolutely. Something that Carbon Yard celebrates, obviously, is those franchises that are thriving. What I have found is that it definitely takes time because you do have to educate your consumers about what you do and the value that you bring. And so what I'm finding is that over time, because of those return customers, it's actually possible to grow this at an incredible rate. So I do think that, I'm at that 3-year mark for the Coppell and turning a profit now. And I do believe that, sticking with it for, 10 years or so, I can absolutely see this becoming a six-figure business. And I say that because there are organizations or there are franchises in Carbon Yard that do have 6 figures in sales. So again, this will never be the multi-million-dollar company. But I absolutely see the potential that is there. And the truth is, I think one area that I maybe didn't think was going to happen is that, that I kind of consider what we do kind of a boutique, in a way. It's a specialty item. So it's not Walmart where you just go there and you just kind of get your thing. It's a boutique. So it's a unique, high-end, next level way of bringing attention to an event or a birthday or whatever. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, well, then it's only going to work in areas where the population can afford it. And the truth is, some of our highest performing franchises are actually areas where you're like, wow, who would know? But that's proof that when you are consistent and when you do things at a high level and high quality, that you bring value to the community. And that said, speaking of something that you said earlier that I wanted to touch on, when you talked about the uniqueness of what we do, I can't emphasize enough a number of times that I've passed an event, a business or anything, and they've got some banner out. Maybe it's a school that has this book fair banner that they've used for like 5 or 8 years, or a church or community that says open house or whatever, and it's faded and it's flapping in the wind, and it just does not bring the energy that I can bring year after year with the right colors and the right graphics and the right design and the right setup. It stops people in their tracks. And it does. It raises attention that cannot be bought by some printed banner that you've used for years.
See, and as you're speaking to that, I can tell you believe it and you have passion for it and you know it. And people who have that, they are so much more convincing, right? Believing in what you have. And you mentioned backstage when we were talking that you're involved in I think we call it a connect group, which is kind of like a peer group. And I want to just, before we jump into that, because I want to talk about the power of peer groups and how valuable those can be. And I know you help lead one. What I want to do is talk about goals in general and vision. And what I want to speak to is how important it is as an owner of a business to have a clarity of vision of where you want to go. If you don't know where you want to go, anywhere will get you there. As the Churchill Cack said in Alice in Wonderland, and it's no different here. You've grown your business and you've done very, very well. This is an opportunity for you to hit 100,000 plus in profit for you. And if any owner can lay out what they want to achieve their first year, their 3-year, their 5-year, and their 10-year, if you can lay out that vision and be willing, I've got some kids that are 20, or 21, 23, and 25 now. And some of these people, my kids will talk about how they put things out to the universe so the universe can give them what they want. And I kind of make fun of them a little bit with that, but there's some truth. You need to speak what it is you want and vocalize it so that it can become more real and let people know you're serious, that I want to hit 100,000 in profit within 5 years in this business. For me to do that, I'm going to be doing about $225,000 a year in revenue. And I know that can be done because I've seen others do it inside the Carbon Yard network. And having that vision, whether it's in Carbon Yard or any business, is an absolute necessity. And the positive energy that comes from just knowing that's where you're going to get will help you achieve by far better results than you could ever do on your own. And so to that point, the power of a peer group, and in your case, I think you called it goal getters. Is that what you called it?
Yeah.
Which is, which I think is phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Have fun with it. The power of peer group. Would you mind just unpacking for us? What is the Connect group? How often do you meet? What do you guys talk about? And what's the value that's being derived from having that peer group?
Certainly. So Card My Yard, honestly, provides so many opportunities for us to learn from them. But this has been a fairly new opportunity and having a peer-led group. So we do things called Master It Mondays. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, especially with new franchise owners, to support them. But these peer-led groups, one of them is called partnerships. So there's a lady Tony, who owns Card My Yard, Miami South, and she has just rocked it with business partnerships. And so, Card My Yard said, "Hey, would you, lead this group?" And she jumped on board. The Goal Getters group was run by another franchise who sold, and they asked me if I would lead it, and I said, absolutely. And it is an opportunity for, I think when peers connect, it's one thing, it's almost like you're a parent. When your parent tells you to do something, you're like, oh my God, really? Of course you can say it because you're not in the trenches. But their best friend could literally say the exact same thing, and all of a sudden it's the best idea ever.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the value from a peer-led group, is because all the franchise owners in Card My Yard know that I own 2 franchises. They know that I'm out there. I'm doing all the things that they're doing, marketing, customer communication. I'm actually doing the hard work. I'm doing the designing. I'm doing setting the goals. I'm doing all of it just like they are. Mm. And so when we can speak to one another on how do we overcome these obstacles, how do we set reasonable goals, and what steps do we take to get to that point, and to hear it from each other, I think it can be inspiring. I think it can be encouraging, honestly. And then there's that level of accountability in a way. Yeah. I think that's one thing I'm really proud of with Card My Yard, is that everything is celebrated. And while there is a desire to grow and strive, there is not this sense of, I hate to say it this way, but I don't feel this sense of competition in, I have to beat them, right? Mm-hmm. And we're really careful about the fact that there are other sign companies out there, and there's plenty of events and things where everybody can be served. So I'm not going to spend my time even comparing myself to the other sign companies. I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to do it well. And we can help I like to help other franchises overcome those obstacles so they can keep their eye on the prize. Because if you're spending a lot of your time worried about how to organize your storage, oh my gosh, let's get that taken care of and knock that out so that you can do what's more important. And, we spoke earlier the fact that my husband takes care of the books. I need to not spend my wheels doing what I'm not good at. Mm-hmm. And the time I would take, and I feel this way about social media too. And I tell my peers this as well. You have got to know what you do well, what brings you joy, and do it really well with 100%. Because if I'm going to try to spend my time learning what I don't do well, I'm actually distracting myself from what I'm supposed to be doing. So there's a lot of phrases out there that I'm like, well, social media is really not my thing. I'm like, define help. Who can help you? Sometimes your kids can help you. A best friend is really good at social media. But it's like social media is important. Whatever you do on social media is super important. But if it's not your thing and you're uncomfortable, then pivot and find what you are good at and work super hard at that. And then it's important then to have someone who is trusted to take care of what you're not good at. I know for a fact that, to a fault, my husband is on top of every single member. I'm like, I think it's like 25 miles I drove. And he's like, no. Like, if it's 24.7, I need it to be 24.7. But I know, I trust him. I know that he's on top of it. So finding a trusted person to take care of those things you're not good at is super important, so that you can lock it in the things that come natural to you.
Yeah, there's some real wisdom in there. We're coming to that point now in our conversation. If any of our live audience members have any questions specifically for Susan or I, feel free to throw those in the chat. I've got some more things I want to ask Susan along the way here. So feel free, if you've got questions for her, to ask her those. And you had a compliment here, Susan. Your positive attitude is infectious. And I would have to agree with that. I want to make an observation on and to speak about peer groups for a moment. I encourage these at the last Home Service Summit with all of our franchisees during the welcome address. I said it multiple times, and I tell every franchisee I meet, the power of peer groups is so incredible. And there's two parts of this I want to speak to. One is there's people like you, Susan, who've kind of made it in Car My Yard. You have a profitable business, it's doing very well, and it's growing. And there's a mentorship opportunity here that brings joy in people's lives. As human beings, we get great joy from helping each other. It's why we've thrived as a civilization, is because we help each other grow. And there's great rewards personally to doing that. And so I really want to advocate and encourage anyone that listens to this podcast, this webinar. If you have arrived already and you said to yourself, well, I don't need peer groups, I already know how to do it. Okay, that's great. Then if you can help others get to where you're at, there's a great deal of personal satisfaction that comes from helping others. So there's mentorship opportunities. And if you're a franchisee that's brand new, finding someone that's willing to mentor you is very valuable. And then speaking of peer groups, community is a very important element of any franchise concept. And it's our responsibility to provide that community. There's great satisfaction and joy that comes from just being connected with people who are going through similar things. And in this case, business ownership is one of those things. And the learning you can make, I think I want to actually ask you this question. Who at Car My Yard Corporate do you rely on the most? Who are the people you call and you talk to the most at Car My Yard?
So we actually kind of have some levels for that. We have a regional specialist, and that's probably the one that I'm like, how about this issue? And she's the one that will directly get on top of that. But if I'm needing help with a graphic, I've got, a customer that's like, hey, can I get this logo, or can you include a graphic like this? And then you've got Kristen, who's kind of on top of that. If I'm wanting to, maybe learn a little bit more about the marketing aspect or something I think you do better on social media, then I might reach out to Elizabeth, or I might reach out to Diana. So there are definitely touch points of people that we can contact, but we have that customer service help person, like regionally, that can help us with some of that urgent stuff.
This is great. It's a reminder, you pay royalties, and your royalties are there to provide you support. Leverage it. We're here. Our team, I know, there's about 300 employees now at 5-star and all the brands total. And we love helping our owners be successful and empowering them in some way. So please leverage us as much as you can. Leverage your peers. If you're not involved in a peer group, you can join the Connect group with Susan and learn from her. Please leverage that. If you're in an area you feel like you'd like to get more involved, even personally, be someone that wants to be a leader and step up and create your own group. We'll support you in that. We want you to be talking to each other and leveraging each other. Here's my last question for you. It's one I like to ask everybody. You've arrived here, you've learned a lot, and I'm sure if you could go back, you're probably the kind of person, Susan, would say you won't change anything because you're too positive. You'd be like, no, you know what? Even the hard things I learned from, and so it's all helped me get to be here where I'm at a place where I'm very happy. But if you could give yourself some advice, a younger version of yourself 3 years or 4 years ago, what advice would you give yourself if you were to start over?
Boy, if I had to give my younger self some advice, I would say dive as deep as you can in who you were made to be. Stop trying to be what other people expect. Let go of worrying about what people think or what they say about you. All it does is just cause you to do what I call jump into a spin cycle. So it's a waste of time. And the more that I try to get away from who I am and what I'm made to do, what I'm made to be, the more it just truly slows me down. I talked about the fact that this is not a glamorous job. Well, if I'm so worried about always having, my hair on and my makeup on and all the things, then I'm forgetting to serve well. So I actually ran a swim business for a while I was teaching. And you talk about having to show up in a swimsuit, wet with no makeup on. But you know what? No one paid me to teach them to swim because of how I looked. paid me to teach the slam because of what I was doing for them and how well I did it for them. And so it was huge to let go of that. Social media is really bad about, or we're really bad about, and I think we're coming around and recognizing that what we really want from you personally, and even on social media, is we want to know who you are in the raw, behind the scenes, and show me that you're genuine. If you are not those things, I don't think I could trust you. And the truth is, I want to be trusted. And that means being my whole self, faults and all, and just doing the best I can, truthfully.
Yeah, authenticity is such a great quality, and I can tell you're mastering it. Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much for giving me your time this morning. And congratulations on your success. And thank you for being willing to share your story with our listeners. So,
thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next month.